So when I quit drinking, that really helped my positive self-talk, or just how I feel about myself, because when I quit drinking, my self-value, my self-worth, my self-esteem, my self-confidence all grew. And I'm really proud of myself, because I mean, like I said, that was really hard to do, and I carried a lot of shame around it. So self-talk, some of the things I say to myself, especially, I mean, when there's challenging situations, I say these 6 words over and over and over again. Hey everyone, it's Toni Will. I am so excited for your guest today because it's me. But before you meet her and you hear more about me, let me tell you what you're listening to. Women In is a podcast that celebrates women from all walks of life and the people who uplift them. Each episode features incredible voices from my world, sharing stories that spark inspiration, challenge the status quo, and remind us that empowering women empowers everyone. This is a bold, curious, and uncensored space where disruption is welcome, forward thinking is encouraged, and change is the goal. I'm passionate about breaking down barriers, not just for us, but for the next generations. Whether our lives cross professionally or personally, these conversations matter. Let's dive in and celebrate the power of connection, growth, and the people who are shaping our world, and this woman is definitely one of them.
Today's guest technically needs no introduction, but because this is a podcast takeover, I've been given temporary control of the microphone, and I fully intend to abuse that power. It's on you, Toni. Our guest is Toni Will, the general manager and governor of the Kalamazoo Wings, where she became the first female governor in ECHL history, and somehow survived over a decade in professional hockey while surrounded by skates, testosterone, and probably at least one folding chair incident.
True.
She is a TEDx speaker with more than 500,000 views, host of the globally ranked Women In podcast, founder of the Empower Her Women's Leadership Conference, executive coach, behavior change coach, and author of the upcoming book, Rebellious Success. Basically, she doesn't appear to enjoy free time very much at all. Toni has interviewed hundreds of guests on her podcast, including yours truly, about a year ago. But tonight we're flipping the script and making her answer the questions for once, which honestly feels like a public service. She's known for talking openly about leadership, reinvention, sobriety, women in sports, failure, ambition, and why asking for forgiveness is often more effective than asking for permission. She also swears a fair amount. Same, ma'am. Has completed 2 Ironman triathlons voluntarily, and once got arrested and turned it into leadership material for a TEDx talk and a book chapter, which is honestly incredible branding. Please welcome the woman who somehow turned rebellion into a career strategy, Toni Will. Give it up for her, everybody. Toni, let's get after it. Thank you for agreeing to do this. You know, it's funny, when we first met a couple of years ago, I never would have guessed that I would be the one asking you the questions someday. You know, I've told you I've been a fan of yours from day one, and over the last couple of years, I've been lucky enough to get to know you and call you a friend as well. So having the chance to turn the tables and shine the spotlight on you for a change is a lot of fun, and honestly an honor. So let's dive in.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we are here at the ECHL League meetings during a Women in Sports networking event. And I want to start by highlighting something remarkable. You're the only female GM in the ECHL and the first woman to serve on the ECHL Board of Governors. Aside from that being incredible to begin with, what is especially interesting is that your background is not in hockey or really even in sports at all. So can you walk us through your career journey and share how it led you to the trailblazing leadership roles that you hold today?
Yeah, and I want to tip my hat first. There is another female general manager in the ECHL who actually walked the path before me, which is Kristen Ropp of the Cincinnati Cyclones. So I want to make sure I acknowledge Kristen, because she is a close friend and someone who I'm like, hey, I call her quite often. And when I started to beat this drum of lifting women up in sports, I'm like, you were here before me. Do you want to do this? I didn't want to steal anyone's thunder. And she was like, no, she had no desire. She's like, you go do it. And so I just want to acknowledge that, because she's phenomenal. So my background is I spent my first 13 years of my career in banking. And I was really proud of that career I built. I kind of came out of the womb as a leader. I always thought I was like, I have a business degree, so I should in management, so I should be managing people naturally. And so it was kind of silly when I look back and think about the 22-year-old me, but I've always had a fire in my belly. So I worked in banking for 13 years, and then I really was getting more involved in my community. I'm born and raised in Kalamazoo, Michigan, never left, and I grew up going to some K-Wings games, but I had no desire to work in professional sports at all. And but I was working for the Chamber of Commerce, and I write about this in the book. It was not a great experience, and so. But I loved what I did externally for Kalamazoo. It was the internal culture that was toxic, and I write about sexual harassment in my book, and I experienced that. And I told myself, I'm a good Gen Xer. I'm going to make it 2 years, and because that's what we Gen Xers like to do. And I made it, gosh, about 20 months, and I left with nothing. I did not have, I had 3 kids that were, middle school age. I had a husband, I had a mortgage, and no money tree. So I applied for a job at a high-end fashion boutique in a hotel at downtown Kalamazoo called the Radisson. And they said, Toni, you're overqualified for this job. And I said, I know. And so long story short, they called me back and offered me the K-Wings, because I also happen to own a professional hockey team. And I said, and again, this is in the book, and this whole thing isn't about me saying it's in the book, buy the book, but although I do want you to buy the book. But beyond that, I said, I don't know shit about hockey. And they laughed, and I'm like, I'm not trying to be funny, I just didn't see it. I didn't see the vision. And they explained to me at this level of hockey that it's knowing how to lead teams, it's knowing business, and it's loving the community. And I had all those 3 things. And so I took a 35% pay cut. And I said yes to the best job I never knew I wanted. So that's how I ended up here. And I had no clue that my gender would play a role in any of this.
Incredible. I love the different chapters and how they, from afar, seemingly don't weave together, and then they all come together to have this really beautiful story to lead you to where you are today. Now, as you look back, every leader has strengths that propel them forward, challenges they've had to overcome. So what would you say your greatest strengths have been throughout your career? And on the flip side of that, what are the weaknesses or the growth areas that you saw, and how did you tackle those and get better at them?
Yeah, I'll start there, because I think, like anyone, I think it's, we tend to be pretty hard on ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's definitely something I've worked on. Weaknesses, I can be impulsive at times. I can react instead of respond. I have a hard time with vulnerability. I think I've just struggled at really understanding, being comfortable with who I am. I think that's the younger version of me. Mm-hmm. As I've gotten older, and actually more just saying, fuck it, this is just who I am. And just open the kimono, it's been a hell of a lot easier. I'm a flawed human being, and I have great intentions, and I'm a good person, and I just stopped trying to be perfect, because there's no such thing. So those are all my weaknesses. Strengths, gosh, I don't know. I've never met a stranger. I'll talk to anyone. I got that from my mom and my dad, quite frankly. I'm very hardworking, probably too much so at times. I always have a fire in my belly. And as some of my friends and colleagues would say, I never half-ass anything. So I put my whole ass into everything I do. And like anything, there's a shadow side to things, but I'm exceptionally loyal. I'm really a loyal person, and I'm a great wife. I'm a great daughter. I'm a great mom, and I'm a great boss. Right, K-Wings crew.
No pressure.
Yeah. So I think those are my strengths.
I love that. I feel like there's a couple T-shirts we could create out of that answer. I think Open the Kimono would be a great T-shirt. I think we have some business opportunities. Yeah,
let's do that. I always love it. Yeah, I like T-shirts.
You've mentioned your mom a couple times so far on this podcast, and in your podcast, when you're interviewing people, you always famously ask, and I love it, what women have had the greatest impact on your life and have helped you get to where you are today. So, flipping the script, what do you say?
Oh, yeah, that's a hard one. So I will start with my mom. And I don't talk, not that I won't talk publicly about it, I will. It's still a sensitive topic for me. My mom died a year and a half ago. When I was writing this book, she passed away. When I launched Empower Her, my conference, she died 4 weeks before the conference of Alzheimer's. And it was a life-changing event when you're in the room when a parent passes. And I'm grateful I was there. And so definitely my mom. I will say this though, because I am honest and vulnerable. My mom and I had a difficult relationship at times. We butted heads a lot. She wanted to raise an independent daughter, and she did, but she said she did too good of a job. I wasn't quite sure how to take that. So that part, she wasn't thrilled when I got divorced the first time. She certainly wasn't thrilled when I got divorced the second time. And so by the time I married my hat trick husband, Josh, you like the hockey pun there? She had a hard time understanding me, and so it was hard. My dad understood me a little bit better. So I do want to add my dad, and my dad's phenomenal. And although not a woman, he is truly the definition of an ally, and always is just so proud of me, regardless if I'm sitting in a jail cell or doing a podcast. So, yeah. And then I had a high school teacher, because I knew this question was going to be asked. Her name was Dot Blessing, and she was just such a wonderful woman for me and always cheered me on, and I was super driven in high school too. And I don't know, she kind of understood how I was just kind of quirky and unique, and I still had the short hair and the glasses and all the things, and she understood kind of how I operated. So if Dot Blessing, if you're listening to this, I have not forgotten.
We love that. I think everyone has a teacher that has just left a lasting impact on them. I have one of those from my 5th grade teacher. Still talk to her. Yeah. Still see her randomly at a Guardians game, and she'll say hi. So it's really incredible to see the impact that women can have for decades on someone's life when we have the best intentions at heart. We have a room full of women that are working in the sports industry, and I would love to know, with your years of experience, if you could give them one piece of advice, just one, what would it be?
Yeah, this one's easy for me. You do not have to keep up with the boys, the men, be one of them. Be you. Although you work in a male-dominated industry, you don't have to try and be something you're not. And I want to offer another piece, and since my podcast, I will. Lift other women up. We are not in competition with one another. We are not. Thank you. We truly are not in competition with one another. The only thing that is scarce is time. Everything else, there's enough of everything else for all of us. So I truly mean that. When you look to your right and your left, how can we lift each other up? And really mean it. And so by showing up here today, you mean it. It's obvious. You care about that. So I would offer that up. And these are not just words. I am someone that if I say I'm going to lift women up, it's not to sell a book or have more podcast listeners or make more friends. I'm going to start a committee. I'm going to volunteer my time. I'm going to be a servant leader. I'm going to help you get that job or make that connection. And I really mean that. And so I want other women to do the same for one another.
I think that speaks so much to what you were talking about with your strengths of like your loyalty and putting your whole ass into things. Like you really do create. You're like, hey, check it out. Toni and I get our fun laughs and our outfits and our bodies and our outfits. But no, you really do. And I've had the privilege of watching you create space for women to come to the table and to have opportunities like this. And you're always thinking about what is the next thing that we can do. And it's really appreciated by myself, by people in your organization and people throughout the ECHL and all the other walks of life that you've ventured down multiple paths. A really important topic to you and I, another commonality that we share. We're both sober women in sports. I can't think of many industries that embrace a work hard, play hard culture more than sports. And we have both been in the sports world when we were not sober,
right.
when we are sober. And I think for a lot of people, being sober in the sports world, or even being moderate in the sports world when it comes to alcohol is a challenge. It feels like a little bit of a barrier. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about your journey in sobriety, how that's intersected with your personal life in the sports world and your professional life in the sports world.
Yeah, this is my second favorite topic. Listen, y'all, I was Toni Party Time. Okay, some of you knew Toni Party Time, actually, probably only one of you in the room. But, she was a mess. You know, I knew my relationship with alcohol just wasn't quite right. I talk extensively about it in the book, but it was important to me when I quit drinking in October of 2020. During the pandemic, I had a choice. I knew something wasn't right with my relationship. I had quit before for 15 months, and then I went back out for 3 more years just to see if I could moderate and find the elusive third door, right? I know, yeah. Sandra and I know how that goes. And I decided that during the pandemic, when in Michigan, we didn't play, so we were dark that season. And while we were still working, we were working remotely from home, I was like, Toni, in my head, I'm like, you have a choice. You can drink your face off like the rest of the world, or you can start working on yourself. And so I decided to do the latter. And it was hard. It's probably I've done a lot of hard shit in my life, but I decided that I wanted to quit, and if I was going to quit, if I was going to drink out loud, then I was going to quit out loud. Mm-hmm. And so what I did is I had to build up some self-confidence, though. So at 80 days alcohol-free, I did a post on social media, and I was so scared because I was afraid of what people would think. Mm-hmm. And I had a lot of shame. I had a lot of shame around my drinking, and that, because on the outside, it looked like I had it all together. And even when my husband and I were dating, the first time he saw me drunk, he was like, "Wow, you're human." I'm like, "What do you mean I'm human?" And he was like, "Well, I just see this side of you, like you're, like he didn't mean to at the time, but he was like, "Oh, this other side of you." I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, my relationship isn't quite right. Yeah. But I wanted to normalize being alcohol-free. And you'll notice I use the word alcohol-free intentionally, because you don't have to have a jacked up relationship with alcohol to want to quit drinking. It can be a health and wellness decision. And so that's where I started. It really was a health and wellness decision for me. So then I decided to launch a business, because as we know, I put my whole ass in everything. And so I got a coaching certification, and I launched my own business 5 years ago. I help people all over the world quit drinking or reduce substance use. That led to professional development coaching. And I haven't stopped, and I love what I do, and it's helped me stay this version of me. But I can only do it if I talk about it and share my story, whether people want to hear it or not. So yeah, that's what my story around it.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's important too that you talk about how you don't have to have this really tumultuous relationship with alcohol. There's a lot of reasons for why that you might not want to be as involved in it at all, a little bit, a lot. So I think it's important to say all that, to also say, like, we're clearly hosting a happy hour right now, right? Yeah. There's a lot of people who choose to do so, but if there are people who ever want to have a conversation, I know Toni and I are both like, come talk to us. We're happy to talk about anything.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think it's important to just bring it to the limelight and have those conversations.
Yeah, and if I could say, I don't care if people like alcohol to me is white noise. It doesn't matter to me if you drink or don't drink, and I know there are other people in the room who are sober or alcohol free, or whatever label you want to use. Like, I don't care. And I don't judge you if you do, because if I was still drinking, I'd probably burn this hotel down. So it's good that we don't, but I don't judge. I don't judge, but I certainly, I always want, and Sandra's the same way. Like, if you want to talk about it, no judgment, because Lord knows. Yeah. So I always want to point that out.
Yeah. I feel like we've only scratched the surface on all the wisdom and lessons that you have to share. But we want to be mindful of time. We want to leave time for Q&A. But the one thing I really want to come back to, and I think it's the perfect opportunity to talk about, is a major accomplishment that you have brought to life in the last year. You recently completed your incredible project of writing your book, Rebellious Success.
Yeah.
So I want to know, like, what was that experience like? What inspired you to write it? What was the journey like? How does it feel? I watched you unbox the hard copies when they got there. Like, how does it feel to hold that project in your hands?
I get chills right now. You're actually the first person to ask me, like, this is the first time I'm answering that question. And I know I'm going to answer it a lot more, hopefully in the future, but I get chills. So the hardcovers arrived last week before I left, and I didn't know I'd be getting them 7 weeks early. I'm like, well, shit, we could have published the book sooner. But anyway, it's August 11th is when it officially will be in stores. But I cried, and I'm not easy to cry, but I cried. It was, it's hard, and even right now, I get what I call sad throat. It's not that I'm sad that I wrote the book. It's just, y'all, writing a book's fucking hard. So, and I'm very vulnerable in it. So let me just describe what it is. It's like a three-legged stool. It's part memoir, it's part self-development, self-improvement, and it's part business leadership. But I want the readers to walk away with a blueprint. If you want to accomplish something in your life, I give you the steps in there, but I'm honest about it. It's not this rah bullshit. It's just real, and it'll help you get to whatever a goal you want to achieve. And the other thing I want to say about the book is, because people are like, how do you do all this? Are any of you sitting there wondering how the heck I do all this work? Yeah, it's a fair question. So going back to the not drinking thing, I gave myself back about 800 hours a year by quitting drinking. That's thinking about drinking, actively drinking, recovering from drinking. And I took those hours and I started a business and I started a podcast and I wrote a book. And so I take my nights, my mornings, and my weekends, and I do have free time, so I don't want to sound like I'm just working all the time. But that's where I pour into this. And then, but I went on a walk, I came back, I'm like, all right, I'm going to write the book. I'm just going to write the book. And I wrote an outline first, and then I have experts help me, found a publisher, and learned all about the business of what is publishing a book. So if anyone's ever interested, I'm always about sharing my stories or my contacts. And if you're listening to this or you're here in this room, because I learned I didn't know a lot when I started on this. I was very naive, and I'm like, I'm skipping along in a field with rainbows and cotton candy and unicorns saying, I'm gonna write a book. And I have, but it's fucking hard. So I do want to mention, John Davis is in the room, who I've mentioned once already, but John was a big part of the full catalyst of a lot of how I've been able to get where I'm at in sports. And so I mentioned him in the book too, and this is another way to peer pressure him to finish the book, right, John? But he truly is a great ally, and mentioned him in the book, amongst others in this room too. So, and I am giving a copy away today. So I do want to mention that.
You know, earlier when I asked you about your weaknesses and you said, being vulnerable, I'd say you overcame that one pretty well, because I can't think of many more ways to be vulnerable than to write down everything you've written down in that book and then not put it away in a drawer like a journal or a diary for you to look back on, when you feel like digging a little deeper. You're putting it out there for everybody to read. That's brave. That's big.
Yeah, it's terrifying too. Yeah. And I've had a lot of self-doubt in this as it gets closer. I feel a little better like today, but I am a little scared. It's out there. It'll be out there forever. So I am proud of myself, but I am nervous. I'm not. And whenever someone who has an advanced copy comes up to me and said, I finished the book, I kind of hold my breath, because there's stuff in there.
Well, I can confidently say, having not even had the chance to read the whole book yet, that I think when you look back on this as years come by, like, you will have inspired and helped so many women with your honesty, with the rigorous honesty like we talk about, and it takes bravery to do that. But I think every great success, every big mountain we climb, like, it has to start with bravery. It has to start with going for it. And I think that you have shown in so many ways that you do that. I mean, and with all those hours you got back, you turned party time Toni to multitasking Toni. That's where you are now.
I tell you what, that I am good at.
Well, thank you again so much for sitting here, letting me interview you, let me take over the podcast. It truly is an honor to call you a friend, to get to lean on you when I have questions, when I need mentorship, to do fun projects like this with you. And I want to take a few moments to open it up for questions. I'm sure we have some in the audience. So we'll flip it over to that.
Yeah, and will you run the mic and so
absolutely.
We can grab the audio?
I wore my running shoes.
Yeah, she's a pro at this. So who has questions? Nothing's off limits, and don't be shy.
All right, who do we have? All right. If you raised your hand, I didn't see it right there.
Oh, there's a yes.
I was making sure I didn't fall down the steps. I was, watching where I was walking first. All right, here you go.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi.
My name is Lily, and I'm from the Florida Everglades, and I wanted to know your take on work-life balance. I'm personally more on the side where I can go to the beach, but not without my laptop. But I had a former coworker who was very much like 9 to 5, and that was it, and that's how he lived his life. I'm assuming you're more on my side based on what I'm hearing about you, but what are your tips and tricks to make sure you're still taking care of yourself?
I think, great question. I think work-life balance is bullshit. But I also think it's bullshit because I'm not good at it, so I just say that. I think it has seasonality. I pick my pockets. I know when my priorities are, I'm being a wife right now, not right now, obviously, because Josh isn't here, but I'm being a wife, I'm being a mom. I'm just really intentional with my time. I set goals for myself each year. I have this 1-year vision worksheet, and my staff knows because they do it too. But one of the things I put on there is no laptop Sundays. And in 2025, I did a great job. In 2026, I've had 4 Sundays where I have, but it's just the season of life I'm in right now. And so I go really easy on myself. I just listen for the burnout cues. If I start to make a lot of mistakes, and I celebrate mistakes, but if I think I was talking to you. When I broke my ankle a couple years ago, I was walking down the stairs and I missed 2 steps and I was thinking about something else. My mom was really sick. I'm trying to do work. It was in the middle of hockey season. I had a one-on-one with TJ coming up, and then I broke my damn ankle. That was a sign that I was trying to do too much and I was burning out. And so I'm aware of that stuff now. So I think this whole notion of work-life balance is false. So if I get good at it, I'll probably change my mind.
Thank you.
Yeah, great question. What else? TJ. Yeah, we got more.
We got 2. TJ, and then I'll come to you over there. All right, look at TJ. We're gentlemen. Give it up for TJ. All right, here you go.
Hi, I'm Lindsay. I am with the Athens Rock Lobsters. We're new to the SPHL this year. What were your biggest hurdles as a woman entering your role with the Kalamazoo Wings?
My biggest hurdles. How honest do I want to be? This is going to be out there. I think credibility is one of the biggest hurdles. There are times, respect. It depends what room I'm sitting in, quite frankly, because there's different facets of my job. There's the day-to-day in the front office. There's the league side of my work with the Board of Governors. There's just different facets. So I think credibility is one of them. There's a lot of times I'm the only woman at the table. And I think differently. And women think differently from men. And so it's been tough to balance some of that sometimes and not think there's something wrong with me because I think differently. And so one of the things I challenge myself with is I don't always have to have all the answers to know what the fuck I'm doing. So I think there's really power in saying I don't know, and that being a strength. So it depends. It's more situational. But I've been called names. There's been times, and this isn't a secret, there was a Board of Governors meeting that was virtual, and someone thought they were muted and they weren't, and they attacked me. and then they had to apologize, and then they got fined, and I mean, like, that stuff's unnecessary. I've been told I've lacked common sense before in those meetings. I mean, just stuff like that. So, you know, I don't love that it happened, but I will say most of those individuals aren't even on the board anymore, so. John Davis, he has.
So let's just touch on that real quick, Toni. She has been very gracious to point me out a couple of times, and it's like, where I come from on this is that the further I've gotten in my career, the more I realize that most of the world doesn't see the world the way I do. And I've had to learn that lesson through different, like, tragedies or mistakes. And so I have only tried to broaden the points of view that I can bring into any given room, because I know that I don't see it that way. And so I'm a huge advocate of it. I have worked for women in sports. The most impactful was the senior vice president of business operations at the Cincinnati Reds. And it's like, it wasn't because she was female, you know? It was because she was just great. And so I wish that you could speak to just, as women in a male-dominated industry, what is the best ways to navigate that so that opinions can be heard and points of view can be heard?
Yeah, it boils down to one word: relationships. And it really is about spending time getting to know everybody. And that's what I've prided myself on over the 12 years in this role. I go visit teams, and wherever I'm at, I build these relationships. So they're genuine, and they get to know me, and I get to know them, and that's how I've done it. It's one-on-one, and the relationship building has been critical. Because there's a lot of John Davises in the world in the sense of allyship and support. And I mean, John is the reason why I got to finally break through and speak on stages at the National Sports Forum. And we were in a pool one day in Las Vegas, and I'm just venting to him. And I'm like, and then he goes, "You know, I'm on the steering committee, right?" I'm like, "No, I had no idea. I'm just telling you because you're my friend." And I go, "Don't you dare do anything about this." And then I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden I'm speaking on, stages and shit. So, I say that because I genuinely wanted to get to know him as a human being, and it had nothing to do with anything other than that. And that's how I feel about anyone still to this day in this league. So there's more of men and like him out there than some of these shitty experiences I've had. But I don't want to negate that some of those experiences have happened in the sense of closed-mindedness.
Let me say one last thing.
Yeah.
So Toni is now on the steering committee. I'll pass it over. Toni's still on the steering committee with me now at the National Sports Forum. She does this exact same thing there.
I do.
And it is always a room that is packed out of people that look just like you, that are looking for this support and looking for this connection, right? So as we lean in as a league, that will only branch off into other leagues and other places. There are a ton of people that look just like you folks that are looking for this connection and help grow this to the point where it's just commonplace. So I'm sorry.
Thank you, John.
So I don't want to forget about good old TJ over here who had his question.
TJ.
So we're going to throw it over to TJ. TJ, what's your question?
All right. Obviously, you wrote that book, and you've been doing this podcast thing for a couple years now. What's the future hold for you in the podcasting?
Ooh, for me in the podcast, it'd be great if I monetized it, but I haven't done that yet. I don't know. I'm going to keep going, because there's just so many more stories to tell. So I just love it so much, and it gives me this opportunity to talk with people one-on-one. So,
is there anyone that you just want to interview, like this person on my podcast?
He asked, is there anybody that she hasn't interviewed that she really wants to interview? For those that couldn't hear in the back.
That's a good question, TJ. Gosh, have I had? You know, I want to have Rhonda Straker on my podcast. She's, her and her husband own the Kalamazoo Wings, and Rhonda is she's fucking phenomenal. Like, she's just kick-ass woman. Rhonda, I would love to have on the podcast. Yeah. There was another question. Yeah.
That was right there. All right.
And I know the vendor showcase is starting. Trust me, it'll still be there. If you want to go, go. If not, I'm not going to be offended.
Hi, I'm Maddie with the Bloomington Bison. I just want to thank you for being here. I think it's really important that we all lift each other up. But I also want to hear about how you navigate positive self-talk. Do you have any mantras? Because I think it's really easy to support everybody else, but you also need to support yourself.
Yeah, so I love that question, such a good question. So when I quit drinking, that really helped my positive self-talk, or just how I feel about myself, because when I quit drinking, my self-value, my self-worth, my self-esteem, my self-confidence all grew. And I'm really proud of myself, because I mean, like I said, that was really hard to do, and I carried a lot of shame around it. So self-talk, some of the things I say to myself, especially, I mean, when there's challenging situations, I say these 6 words over and over and over again. I'm growing, I'm growing, I'm growing. And I really, when things are hard, that's what I say. And I really do believe that when you're in the thick of anything challenging, you're growing. And I love growth. And that's where, I don't know, I'm just so excited for I just turned 48, and I'm super excited. I'm going to live till be 100, everyone. I'm going to be a centenarian. So the second half of my life, because I grew so much in the first half, and that really motivates me. And then when I'm working out, I'm like, leave it all on the floor, Toni. Like, I try to motivate myself that way, because that's just what I say. It's stupid, but that's what I say. So, yes, another question.
All right, any other questions out there? Same table back here.
Hi, I'm Annette. I'm also with the Bison. That's also my roommate. So, and I know you talked about being you, and I feel like for me, it's really hard in a room of men or with players in the team to be myself. I feel like I kind of retreat into this shell, and I was just wondering, like, what advice you have to attain that mindset of, like, it's okay to be myself in this room full of people who aren't the same as me.
Yeah, so half of this is about just showing up. Keep doing it over and over and over and over and over again. And when you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're like, I don't feel like doing that because I'm scared or nervous, that's exactly when you do it. And then, stick your chest out, and be proud. And I don't just say that because of the anatomy. I say that because of confidence. And I think a lot of this is in our head, and it's about envisioning the person you want to be, and somehow pushing through the fear. And I don't think that's an easy thing to do. So I don't want to sound like some self-help guru, but I do know this. Like, I used to have a giant fear of flying, and I knew that I didn't want that to hold me back from doing my goals and my dreams. So I'm going to keep getting on that airplane over and over and over and over again. Do I think I'm going to die half the time? Yes, but I'm not as nervous, and I can't control that. So there's a good book I recommend. I read my age every year, everyone. So you heard I'm 48, so I'll read 48 books this year. The Confidence Gap is a great book, and I'm listening to it. So in case you're like, how does she read all these books? And I listen. I have a Kindle app, and I read actual books too, and I read multiple at a time. But the Confidence Gap is excellent on this, so I encourage you all to read it.
All right. Any more? Maybe time for like 1 or 2 more if they're out there. I don't think so. Toni, as always, nothing beats spending time with you, girl. Always a great time.
Thank you.
Make some noise for Toni Will, everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in to this podcast takeover of Women In. My name is Sandra Dragonoy Bowler. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, and until next time.